Happy Monday. Our quote this morning says, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but it's the one most responsive to change." As it relates to change in our industry, there's a big NAR settlement that took place that there's been a lot of chatter going on about and anticipation. So on Friday, they released some new information as it relates to the NAR settlement. For those of you guys that aren't aware, the NAR settlement includes where the MLS participants working with buyers must enter into a written agreement, the buyer's brokerage agreement. And also, it prohibits anyone from offering compensation on the MLS. So a seller can't offer compensation on the MLS. There are four new forms that was released last week, Friday, June 21st. And two were compensation agreements. And another two were modification to those compensation agreements. I'm going to go a little bit more detail about these documents that were released. The first agreement is a compensation agreement from a seller to a buyer's broker. And this just pretty much has a term in there which can be extended. And this outlines the amount of compensation to be paid at closing as either a percentage, a flat fee, or other. This is an agreement between the seller and the buyer's broker in terms of commission. The next agreement is a modification to the first agreement, which is a modification to the compensation agreement between the seller and the buyer's broker. And this is to make any amendments to the prior agreement. Think of it as an addendum, making a change to terms that were previously agreed to. Then we have a compensation agreement between the seller's broker and the buyer's broker. So that's the listing agent to the buyer's broker. And this agreement is property specific. It's not a blanket agreement between brokerages. It's a specific to a particular property. And then this has a term also, and that can be extended towards the closing date. So there must be a defined term for this agreement. Cannot be forever. This also has the option to name a specific buyer if they choose. If a buyer is named in this commission agreement, then a commission will be due to that real estate brokerage for that particular buyer. If they bring another buyer, then a commission will not be due. So if no buyer is noted, then the selling broker, the listing agent, will owe the buyer's brokerage for any buyers that they bring to the property. So very important for you guys to note. If you may have more than one buyers that may be interested in that property, do not assign a buyer's name in that agreement. The other agreement is a modification to the prior agreement, a modification to the compensation agreement between the buyer's brokerage and the listing brokerage or the selling brokerage. Again, this is to make any amendments to any of the terms that were previously agreed to, and you guys could think of it again like an addendum to the contract. And then on July 23rd, there'll be an updated listing agreement and also forms to follow of how to transition the current listing agreements that we have now, and then after August, July to August, how to transition those listing agreements. Remember, moving forward, you're going to need a written agreement, a buyer's brokerage agreement with every client that you encounter as a buyer. This is to be done at the inception of your services, not after you've toured a few properties or when they're sending off an offer. Also remember that August 17th is the deadline for all new forms and rules to be in effect. So we have a transition period that we're working towards. So again, try to fully understand the changes that will be in effect. If you're unaware, reach out to your broker. And then in October, there'll be updates to all the riders and addendums. So that's it on this week for Real Talk. Have a blessed day.